new polling in the Deseret News. So over half of Utahns are living paycheck to paycheck. And the way they asked the question was basically, can you cover your monthly expenses and save? And only 22% said yes. 51% said they could cover their basic expenses, but not save money. And 25% say they are struggling to cover basic expenses.
And do you think, is that based like right now that they're doing that, or is that sort of saying, hey, over the last year, is that where you feel like you are?
That's a good question. They just did the poll like mid to late October, so the 17th through the 22nd.
Okay.
So it's recent, like it's current information. And I just was really surprised to see that makes 76% of Utahns saying we either struggle to meet expenses, but we just can't save. Like we just can't save money.
That has to be driven primarily by housing costs. Wouldn't that be sort of where you default to say, if that's taking up such a large portion of your monthly income, whether that's rent or a mortgage, maybe a mortgage you got into, to say, rates will get cut eventually. Rates will get cut eventually, and they haven't been cut, not significantly enough where someone's probably really considering refinancing and saying, this is a big savings. I was hoping to buy the house that I've got at a 4% interest rate. I got in at 7. Now it's down to 6.5. Still not worth me making that change.
You're probably young enough that this didn't impact you, but when my husband and I bought our first house, we were at 16 or 17% interest.
Yeah.
It was
Carter administration, late 70s is where you were.
No, I'm not that old. I purchased my first house in 1990, actually.
Okay.
So
wow,
interest rates were in the teens. Yeah, they were in the teens. Wow. So crazy high. But anyway, that is a concern, but it just is interesting to me as we talk about paycheck to paycheck, right? So and what's also interesting is that it's not just people who are quote unquote at the poverty level of income. This can be also people who are making up to $100,000 a year, and 11% people who are making over $100,000 a year are still paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, and I guess I can understand that in the sense that as your income increases, a lot of times so do your expenses. And sometimes, we say that and it makes people think like, well, then you're spending lavishly. You went and bought a fancy car, or you went and bought this or that.
Right.
And it can be that in a lot of instances. In some cases, it's people who are suddenly making some more money, and in an effort to invest, maybe what they do is go buy like a rental property. And then guess what? Even when the economy dips, you still have to pay that mortgage on that rental property.
That's right.
Whether people are renting it and helping cover that, or they're sometimes renting it only covers a portion of it. So, sometimes it can be easy to default to, well, this is because of irresponsible activity. Sometimes it's because of just investing, and you're saying, I'm going out a little bit on a limb and overextending, and you feel okay doing that at the time. But then there's a bump in the road and suddenly you're feeling less comfortable about it.
Well, and it's interesting, and I'd love to hear from our listeners. We have lots of great response from texters. So if you can text us at 57500, what's your biggest financial concern right now? So this poll, it broke down what people's biggest concerns were. And it's interesting because you mentioned housing. That is one of them. That's 15% of respondents say that was one. 19% say paying for everyday expenses like groceries and gas.
Yeah, I would have said food would have been very much a close second, if not the biggest one right now.
But the biggest one actually is saving for the future. People are really worried about that. And it does break down generationally. So the boomers, bless our hearts. I'm the tail end of the boomers. That's how old I am. So.
And I'm Gen X, so I'm just throwing that out there for.
But for the boomers, the biggest expense is the biggest worry is covering day-to-day expenses. But for all the other generations, it is saving. It's being able to save for the future. That includes retirement, but that also includes emergency fund money. Yeah. Like if you miss a paycheck because you're part of the government shutdown, right, or any other reason you get laid off or whatever, right? Yeah. That is their concern.
Do you think that's because, just trying to think into those numbers a little bit, if the boomers are saying, hey, it's not so much saving for retirement because I feel like I'm either on a good path there, or I'm getting close to where I'm going to have that money or access that money. But now, like, I'm working within a budget to make sure I get to that goal line. That makes a little bit of sense to me.
Yeah.
And then when you say younger folks, I'm worried about retirement because I got to find a way to put some money away that someday when I get there, I'm in a good position.
Yeah.
But like, I also have some flexibility in my monthly expenses, or it's so different for every person, and it's hard to kind of paint this broad brush, even generationally, or even breaking it down, by 5 years of age at a time, to say this is where people are going to struggle and have some challenges.
Yeah, this is actually, this is really one texter who says, childcare is my second largest expense behind the mortgage. For 2 children, a 4-year-old and a 6-month-old, I pay $566 a week. Somebody else says, and this is a part of a huge conversation too, a bit off topic, but my biggest concern is the national debt. And then another texter says they've continuously made over $100,000, but the hardest thing for us is the fact we have 7 people in our family, including the teenage boys that eat so much food. And so looking at that, $100,000 really isn't that much. Look, I've raised teenagers. We had, because we have a really large family, we had several times where we had 11 teenagers in the home at one time. I am telling you.
They could eat a little bit.
Our regular grocery store is Costco. Right. And they just, like, when I first started having kids, great, we know expenses for babies, toddlers, clothes, etc. But when I started having kids turn into teenagers, I was shocked that they were not eating 3 meals a day. They were eating like 5 full meals a day, sometimes 6. And it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I have the 18-year-old and 2 15-year-olds boys at home right now. And so a lot of times I found in the last 6 months, the trend has suddenly become, I'm driving home from work and you get the call and say, hey, what time's dinner? Tell them. Can you get Wendy's on the way home?
Right.
Have something before that? It's like, geez, buddy, I guess. Yeah. I can't keep up with them at this point. Their metabolism runs circles around.
It's so high. And even the girls, even our girls were the same way, right? And it's like, okay, so you have breakfast before you go to school. You have lunch at school, and it's a full lunch. You come home, eat a full meal, have a pre-dinner snack, which could be Wendy's, and then a full dinner, and then there's something like at 9 p.m. that's also like a dinner.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is necessarily played out for you, but at least I look at it and say, all right, they're home for now. 18-year-old, going to graduate from high school this year. The 15-year-olds are 4 years away from graduating. So, like, are we at the most expensive part of our lives right now with the food bills and the housing and all the stuff that's going?
It changes.
And that's to say nothing about car insurance, right?
Right.
15-year-olds about to become drivers. That's
yeah. Look, we have one more texter who said, we just used our small retirement funds to buy our home. Our income does not allow for saving. So between kids and bills, we would most likely work until we pass away. And I'm hearing that more and more, that people are saying retirement just isn't even in the works for me.
And a lot of people saying that, I don't know, some people starting to say that's a good thing, that you don't want to retire fully, but you would like to be able to take your foot off the gas a little bit.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
You want to retire fully?
I don't know. I'd probably be bored, to be honest.
That's the way I feel about it.
And we did have a texter that reached out over the break. Times are different now than they were 20 years ago. This person says, it used to be as long as somebody could make a 5 or 10% profit on a rental place, that's all they would charge. Now they go according to the going rate, which could be a whole lot more than that, which that's probably a fair look at it. So we called up Shane Stewart. He's a certified financial planner with DMBA. And we talked to him about this and asked him how people, like, what they can do to break out of this paycheck to paycheck cycle. And he recommends a candid look at your finances as a good first step.
The way to get out of that cycle is to really scrutinize what you're spending. Most people don't really know what they're spending. They're just spending to survive rather than analyzing that. And as painful as it might be, it helps to take a look at once in a while your monthly expenses and really identify where you're spending your money and where you could do better. Most people don't like to do that, including myself. I'm a financial planner. I don't like to do that. But if you'll bite the bullet and do that once in a while, it's extremely helpful to just track what you spend. And you don't even have to make some significant changes. Just know what you're spending, and you'll see that you'll start to self-regulate.
So one of the issues that I struggle with, and I know other people do too, those subscriptions that you like sign up for and then forget about them.
Yeah. Well, the ones in my case, the ones you have to sign up for to watch a single football game. And then you're just like, you go to sign up for it. And it's like, well, it's $7 to watch this one game for this 1 month, or it's really only like $180 for the year. Yeah, it's, just
right.
But then it's on there and you're like, when was the last time I clicked on HBO Max?
Right. Exactly.
Like, I know we watched that one show about 2 years ago. How often? When was the last time we watched something there?
It's terrible. But
I know
too.
As soon as I cancel it. Well, a lot of times you can't because I've just bought the year.
Right.
But then even if you decide to, you go, well, as soon as I do, I'm going to see something that I want to watch.
There'll be something amazing.
Suddenly something came up.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one issue. We have another texter. She says she's a single mom. She's 59. She's worked for this company for 20 years. She has 2 self-sufficient, for the most part, college students. She pays their car insurance and their phone. She has no car payments. They drive 15-year-old cars and contributes modestly to her retirement. She says she has not been on a vacation since 2012. We don't eat out with taxes, groceries, and home maintenance costs. Same home for 20 years, 2% interest. She says with health care, car insurance, and the cost of everything creeping up, I have no savings, only what's in my retirement, literally paycheck to paycheck. So I think what we're seeing is that more and more Utahns, in fact, I saw an article this morning that talked about the economy starting to wobble. So when we talked with Shane Stewart, we asked him to share advice for people who are worried about the government shutdown, which is now in day 34.
34?
Yeah, 34.
Less than 48 hours away to making it the longest in history.
I don't know if we were really hopeful to set that new record. But in any case, we asked him to share his advice for people who are affected by the government shutdown. He has one key message.
One is to not panic. Panic isn't probably necessary, at least yet right now. I know it's a little unnerving to learn that you're not getting the source of income that you're used to, but you likely will get it. It's just going to be delayed. However, in the meantime, be resourceful. Reach out to state and local and even charitable organizations to see if they can help you bridge the gap. Many of these are already aware that SNAP benefits are delayed, and so they're already reaching out. State agencies and even charitable organizations are reaching out, and so go find them and see what you can do to get that stream of income temporarily covered.
So, Marty, you mentioned that you think housing costs really are impacting this feeling that we're struggling to meet paycheck to paycheck. And I know that when we bought our first home, and since then, I think the benchmark was about 30% of your income could go to a housing payment. I heard on the morning news coming in this morning that there are people it's more than 60%.
Yeah.
And that makes it really hard.
So I don't know that it's the thing that's driving the problem for everyone, because some of us bought houses long ago and sit there and go, hey, thank heavens, because I don't know if I could afford my house right
exactly.
now if it were suddenly on the market. Thank goodness I bought it a decade ago. So I think that's the case for not necessarily for everyone, but certainly for younger people who are trying to get into a house or are renting with inflated prices right now. That's one of those things that just takes a massive chunk out of your budget because you got to have someplace to live, right? But the things that I think are more variable and probably hitting more currently, like it seems like food prices every so often we're like, well, why are eggs so much, or why is this so much? And recently even the Speaker of the House has been talking about why are gas prices so high,
especially in Utah.
It's like I gotta look at 2 refineries while I drive in, but suddenly every time I go by the pump, I'm seeing it's
higher than many places in the nation.
It starts with a 3, and most places are at least starting with a 2. I don't remember the last time it was below $2.99.
You have to go to Costco because I filled up for $2.85 at Costco this weekend.
Well, I'll say this: it seems always to be a little bit higher in Kaysville than everywhere else in Davis County.
That may be true.
Layton and go, wait a minute, gas is it's like 20 cents cheaper here.
Interesting.
But, yeah. And I don't notice it as much. I have an electric car, but I notice it when I have to go take my wife's car to get some gas in it.
Yeah.
Or, I know that people are putting gas in cars in my household.
Yeah.
So they get to deal with that. So I would think that food is primarily like one of the newer drivers that you go, I used to spend about X amount on food. Now I spend more, or, it's costing a little bit more to go to grab a burger,
right?
Whether it's
for sure.
Casual dining, fast food, something like that.
Yeah, for sure. We have a texter that says it's property taxes that are killing us. They said their property taxes were $300 a month when they first moved in, and now it's $900 a month, right? And we've had a discussion on Inside Sources previously talking about property taxes increasing in so many different counties right now. And my taxes went up a fair chunk this year.
Yeah. One of those taxes that just really gets you. Like, I already bought this thing.
It seems to feel more personal, right? So we've talked about the 3-legged stool even of taxes, and property taxes, income tax, and sales tax, but the property tax seems to really evoke a visceral reaction.
Yeah. Most people, if they added up all the taxes that they actually pay, that's when you would have some kind of real backlash to government. Go like, wait.
Yeah.
What is it we really are spending money on, and what do we really need, right?
Yeah,
so as much as everyone wants to do a review of their finances, I think if they did that, they'd probably mostly look at government and go, wait, do we need the
what are you doing
to this, that, or whatever?
Right. So Shane Stewart that we talked to says there is a light at the end of the tunnel. The shutdown won't go on forever. I don't know if he knows that, but he did say that.
These SNAP benefits being delayed should be a temporary issue. And the reason being is because those that make decisions also understand this is not only a human issue, it's also an economic issue. If we go more than a couple of months of delayed SNAP benefits, it starts to impact the economy, because those benefits turn into the grocery stores and the people who provide the food and those kind of things. It'll start to impact the economy, and we really can't afford that as a nation either. And so they're going to have to come up with a solution, an agreement, start making it less political and more human.
We have two more texters. Again, I told you we have really great listeners, and they text in. So one texter says, for me being a single mother, my biggest financial needs are paying my rent and car payments. Now I have medical bills that need to be paid, and it's hard. I live paycheck to paycheck, and sometimes it's paycheck to another paycheck in a month or so. So that makes it really rough. And another one says many home budgets suffer from unlisted or undocumented or untotaled categories, secret hobbies or secret addictions, for example. And we've talked about that too, how it's, in fact, some people call it financial infidelity, because somebody's spending money, but they're not really talking about it. I maybe used to do that when I was buying a lot of fabric. It just would show up in my closet, and my husband would say, "Is that new?" It's like, "Oh, no, I got it a while ago."
How many lives have been ruined by secret fabric addictions, Holly?
Well, I don't know about that one, but there may be some others. Look, we know it really is a kind of a wobbly time, maybe a scary time. We're headed into the holidays, and there's definitely economic uncertainty right now.
Do you think overall it changes the tone if we get a deal, say, by the end of this week, that the federal government is reopened? Does that change anything, or is it one of those things that just kind of hangs over people, even though it may not necessarily impact every family?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes to both. Yeah, because it's not just the shutdown and the federal workers who are impacted, but we're talking about just a runaway national debt, right? We're at $38 trillion, and it took 180 days to go from 37 to 38. That's still increasing while the government is shut down. So I think there's some of both, right? And when we talk to economists, they tell us that there are mixed messages being sent by the economy, right? So some things look good, like the stock market seems to be doing well, but the labor market is being really stagnant. People aren't changing jobs. They're not hiring or firing. Anyway, so we don't know.